lay her down here. Whoa, okay. Now it's like yeah, the handguard breaks off. Don't disregard that. Don't worry about that. Sorry, Honda, we'll fix it. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. One of the comments and questions I've been getting a lot lately on my channel is how easy is a particular bike to pick up? Or people are saying that, you know what, the Yamaha T7 is a great bike, but I've heard it's really top heavy and it's hard to pick it up once you drop it or once you crash it. People have said, oh, the GS is easier to pick up than a T7 or a 790 because it doesn't fall over all the way. So there's all these discussions about, you know, what motorcycles are harder to pick up than others. And this is a very, very subjective issue. It's going to depend how far the motorcycle falls over, how heavy it is. And of course, then there's you, right, the rider, how strong you are and how good you are at different motorcycle lifting techniques without getting yourself hurt. So what I've decided to do to integrate into my channel from this point going forward is every motorcycle that I ride or review or test, I'm going to gently lay it down in my driveway and do a pickup test, hopefully without hurting myself or the bike, and give it a score to see how difficult that bike is to pick up relative to other motorcycles. So I've decided to do the scoring like an A to F system, right? So it's not going to be some weird numbered thing. I'm just going to do A to F. So a grade A would be like, it was super easy to pick up, had no problems. And a grade F would be like, it was impossible or almost impossible to get it up off the ground or just very awkward. So we've got this A to F system, and there's other things that can come into play here, like where do you grab onto the motorcycle? Is there like a grab handle or something in the back that's an easy way to lift it? And of course, keep in mind that in the real world, when you're riding on the trail, you're not going to drop your bike in a level driveway on concrete, right? It's going to be rocks, ruts, mud, sand, ice, whatever it is that could make things a lot more difficult. But of course, counteracting that is the fact that you're going to have adrenaline pumping, and it might actually in some cases be easier with that adrenaline and kind of that extra strength and energy than it would be here in the driveway. So maybe those things will hopefully kind of balance themselves out. So what I'm going to do in this video today is I figured, okay, I got to figure out this rating system and start to rank these bikes. So I took all 5 bikes that I have in my garage right now. The KLR, the T7, the Beta 500, the R1250 GS Adventure, the big boy, and the Africa Twin 1100, which I still have. And I'm going to lay them all down and pick them up and try to establish a scoring system. And then in all my future bike videos, I'm going to drop them down, pick up the bikes, and see how hard they are to pick up. So with that out of the way, let's start to get some bikes on the ground and start to do some lifts. All right, let's get this festival of pain started. Hope I don't get a hernia after all this is said and done. So we'll start with the KLR 650. This bike, in its trim that you see it, I did take off the saddlebags because I didn't want to damage the saddlebags, which I think they might break, honestly, looking at the construction of them. So I took those off. This bike weighs around 380 pounds or so, the way you see it. So let's go ahead. I put down some blankets, some towels that I could find, just so I hopefully prevent things from getting scratched, because some of these bikes aren't even my own personal motorcycles. Some of these are press bikes. So I want to keep getting press bikes. Don't want to make people mad. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Honda. Thanks, Kawasaki. Anyway, let's go ahead and gently lay these down, and then I'll show you how they are to lift up, and then maybe we'll do the scoring all at the end once I kind of have a relative sense of how each of them was. So let's go ahead and lay down the KLR. The first thing I'm going to do on all the bikes is I'm going to put all the bikes into gear, okay, because I don't want them rolling around. So that is a good lesson for you if you can, if you have crashed your bike, to put it into gear before you try to lift it. Kickstand is up, so let me go ahead and gently lay this one down. Okay, so we've got the KLR setting here on its side. Okay, so we've got the KLR setting here down. Let's go ahead and I'm going to use the lift method where I face outward from the bike and try to lift with my legs and not my back. Try to keep my back straight, kind of what a lot of us have been taught in rider training. I'm not an expert. I'm not perfect at everything. And you know what? My advice is to watch as many videos as you can and kind of practice and figure things out on your own, because I don't have all the answers. But anyway, let's go ahead and lift up this KLR. So first thing I notice is it definitely falls all the way over, that's for sure. Okay, that wasn't too bad. That was a little bit easier than I was expecting. So still hard work, and I think I bent my back a little bit more than I wanted to, so I'll work on my technique, but that's why we're doing this. Let me grab the next bike. Okay, next up in the test is Yamaha's Tenere 700. This is my personal bike, so I'm not as worried about scratching it. And I have not had to pick this bike up yet, so I'm very interested to see. A lot of people have said that they thought the T7 was one of the harder bikes to pick up. So I guess we're about to find out if that's true. So let's go ahead and lay her down. Ooh, whoa. It felt like there's more leverage on this one than the KLR. Like, it felt like there's more weight. I don't know why. They weigh about the same, this bike with the KLR, so that's kind of interesting. But let's go ahead and zip up my tank bag here so the stuff doesn't fall out. Let's go ahead and give this bike a lift, shall we? So on this bike, so the KLR, I had like a nice grab handle to lift. On this bike, I don't really have that because they've been taken off. So I kind of have to grab the rear rack and the handlebar here. Oh, okay. Oh, and you see I forgot to put it in first gear. So what happened was the bike rolled backwards. So that's why we want to put our motorcycle in gear before we pick it up so it doesn't roll away on us. This was harder. This was, I would say, 30 or 40% harder than the KLR. So far I'd give the KLR like a B maybe. Hard to say because it's all relative, and I'd give this bike like a C minus or maybe a D. It was difficult to pick up. You can hear my breathing. So let's move on next to the Beta. Okay, so at about 260 pounds, maybe 275 with the extras this one has in the larger tank. This is definitely the lightest bike in my little test here, so it should be the easiest. Sometimes dirt bikes don't have a really good place to grab on the back, but typically they're so light that it's not too much of an issue. So we'll go ahead and pretend that we've crashed our Beta. Oh no! So a dirt bike, because it doesn't have any crash bars or anything, it definitely wants to fall all the way over. This bike, as light as it is, I could probably pick it up facing the bike like this. But I'm going to go ahead and use my tried and true method of sort of doing my leg lift here. So we'll grab a hold. Forgot to put the bike in gear again. That's pretty easy. I mean, you would expect it to. I'm going to give it like a B plus or an A minus. A little bit harder than I thought, but not bad. Like, I could do that quite a few times before getting tired. So let's go ahead and move the Beta aside and move on to the bike I'm a little bit afraid of, the GS Adventure. Okay, so this is the one I've been worried about. But the good thing about the GS is, and I pointed this out in other videos and other people have pointed this out, is that because the Boxer engine sticks out so much, and assuming you have good crash bars, which I do, it doesn't fall over as far. And the fact that it only falls over about this much is a big asset for having to pick it up. So let's find out if that's true. So I did remember to put the bike in gear this time, all right? So go ahead and drop this down here. Oh boy. Ooh boy. Okay. Now, I could definitely feel the mass of this thing. So this bike, just so you know, weighs about 600 pounds. Probably more than 600 pounds because it has accessories on it. That's a heavy motorcycle and it's intimidating to deal with. Now, I have picked this bike up twice because the first ride, when it was brand new, I dropped it because I didn't put the kickstand down properly. And then when I was on my trip up to Olympic Rainforest, I dropped it at a gas station just because I wasn't paying attention. So I have picked it up before, but let's go ahead and pick it up and try to give it some sort of a score here. So you notice that the motorcycle is maybe, gosh, you know, it's not 90 degrees down. It's maybe, 70 degrees, something like that. So you already have quite a bit of help because of the Boxer engine. So right away, I don't have to get down as far to the ground to grab a hold of it because it's already, partway in the air. So let's go ahead and lift her up. That really wasn't bad at all. So I would give this probably like a B, B minus, maybe a C plus, somewhere in there. We'll do all the scores here in a second on the whiteboard, but not too bad for a 600-pound motorcycle. That's the advantage of having the boxer engine. Okay, last up in this little test, the Honda Africa Twin 1100. This bike weighs around 525 pounds as you see it. Because it's a DCT, it weighs a bit more. I think the base bike like this without DCT is around 500 pounds. Just so you know, most of the bikes are pretty full of fuel in this test. So if that gives you a sense of, they pretty much hit their fully loaded weight with the gas. Let's go ahead and drop this one down and try to give it a score. So now you might think that it's a DCT, oh, it's gonna roll away. It's not. It's not gonna roll away because it has a parking brake. So I've set the parking brake. Let's go ahead and lay her down here. Whoa, okay. Now it's like yeah, the handguard breaks off. Don't disregard that, don't worry about that. Sorry Honda, we'll fix it. And actually it just pops off because this is not the first time that I've dropped this bike. I dropped it on the trail when I was filming the U-turn video. So don't worry, disregard that. Let's go ahead and pick it up and give it some kind of score. Now I noticed it kind of fell part way and then it kind of pivoted on something and fell the rest of the way, but after just picking up the GS, this is a lot more leverage to try to have to lift up. It's a lot more close to the ground. So let's go ahead and lift this one. Now what I don't like about the Africa Twin is that it doesn't have a rear rack on the standard version. So there's not much really for my left hand to grab. So I don't like that fact. Okay. That wasn't too bad. I would say that was easier than the Tenere. I'm gonna give this maybe like a C, maybe. I think it was harder than the GS, but easier than the Tenere 700. So surprised how bad the Tenere 700 was. So with all this ridiculous stuff out of the way, let's go into the whiteboard and assign some scores and get the scoring system started. Okay, so we're back in the studio. Let's go ahead and get some scores up on the board here. I kind of rated the bikes when I was picking them up, and then I've been going over the ratings to make sure they still make sense to me relative to all the other bikes. Let's put them up on the board and start to get the scoring system established. So, like I said earlier, I'm going to start ranking all the bikes that I review, ride, and test with this A to F score, and I'm going to keep a record of it. The record's going to be on the website that I'm building. My website's not released yet. Also, there's something really exciting coming, which I guess I'll tell you about now to kind of give you a preview of it. But I've been compiling all the specifications, weights, fuel capacity, steering rake angles, suspension, travel, ground clearance, base price, all the stuff you would care about a motorcycle, the specs for every single dual sport and adventure bike sold today in 2021. And I'm putting them all to this huge matrix that I'm going to make available for free download, no strings attached. So that's coming in a week or two, so please stay tuned for that. And I'll put the drop scores on there as well as I review and test the different bikes. And I have other ideas for some other kind of cool ways to score motorcycles, but more on that later. So let's get these scores up on the board. So the KLR 650 wasn't too bad, and we're going to give that a B minus, okay? The Yamaha Tenere 700 was the hardest in this test of 5 motorcycles, which is surprising. You would think it would be easier than Africa Twin, easier than the GS, but that's not how it works out in real life. I think it just has a lot of weight up high, and it just, when it gets levered over like that, it's hard to pick up. So that bike, I'm giving it a D plus, okay? So the Beta, obviously, as you would expect, was pretty easy to pick up. So that bike, I'm going to give it an A minus. The GS, I think, was the big surprise of this test. People have talked about it being easy to pick up, and I've always thought it was relatively easy because it doesn't fall over that far. So I'm going to give that bike a B minus, kind of on the same level maybe of the KLR 650, even though the KLR 650 is 150 pounds lighter than the GS. The Africa Twin was easier than the Tenere, but harder than the GS. So we're going to go ahead and give the Africa Twin a C. So these scores are just the beginning, right? And let me know what you think of them. But I want to give you guys a way to sort of rank things in relative difficulty And I have some other cool ways I'm going to start ranking adventure bikes that I test. So I sincerely hope that you got some use out of this video, hope it was helpful, hope it was maybe slightly entertaining. I'm sorry to disappoint you that I didn't break my back or get a hernia, and I'm still amongst the living here with you. But maybe next time, you know, I still have plenty of time to get hurt in making all these videos, so stay tuned. But yeah, please, if you find this channel useful, there's a few things you can do. Please subscribe and hit the bell. Please always leave a comment. Please always give the videos a thumbs up. And consider being a Patreon supporter to help me out with some of the expenses of running this channel. Like I said, stay tuned because I've got a lot of really cool, exciting content for you coming up. And until then, ride safe, thanks for your support, and we'll see you in a few days.